in the news, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in Guyana over the past week or so. And as is the norm, we always have a packed agenda of issues of national importance worthy of discussion. Tonight is no different. I want to welcome all of our viewers who are joining us on television from Region 5, Mahaika, Maikoni to West Coast Berbice. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To our viewers who are joining us on television in Region 6 on the east bank of the Berbice River, New Amsterdam, Kanji, and of course along the Quarantine Coast, welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News. To our listeners and viewers who are joining us on Freedom Radio from Robb Street, Georgetown, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And last but not least, to the hundreds, if not thousands of you who are joining us on Facebook Live, right across the length and breadth of Guyana, across the Caribbean, North America, Europe, Asia, and further afield. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And I see many of you have joined us on Facebook already. Marde Virasamy, Nishad Sharma, Yvonne Grant, Neetu Maraj, Imran Ali, Mike Bikam, Jack Jagdeo, Borti Sukraj, Debbie Prasad. Please press that share button on your phone. Press that share button on your laptop. Press that share button on your iPad or whatever device that you are using to view this program. Share it with your friends, share it with your followers so that we can have the widest possible discussion. I also invite you to share questions with me, share your views with me so that I can address them to make the program as interactive as possible. Once again, ensure that you share the program wide and far so that we can have a large and engaging audience. And please share with me any questions you may have, any issues you may wish me to address, or any matter you may wish me to discuss. Please put it in the comment section and I will see it and I will try to address it as far as I possibly can. So let's start. We have ongoing the annual National Tushao Conference, which is currently being held at the Artachong Convention Center. This is an important annual national event where Amerindian leaders from across the country, who are the legitimate leaders of our Amerindian people, come together once a year, including elders and respected persons within the Amerindian community, as well as community development officers and other important functionaries in the Amerindian community. They come together once a year and they meet with government and they discuss matters that are important to the lives and livelihood of our Amerindian brothers and sisters. The entire government goes out and meet with those Amerindian leaders and discuss with them the important issues that the Amerindian leadership would like the government to address. Every single minister is required to meet with the Amerindian delegation and address the concerns raised. The government, our government, has always approached this important initiative and engagement differently from APNU AFC. when they were in government, they planned this activity for the Amerindians. They determined the agenda. They determined where the people stayed in Georgetown. They determined who the people will meet and who they will not meet. And they circumscribed and controlled the discussion. In fact, they held the Amerindians almost captive in Georgetown for this engagement. I remember when we were in the opposition, the Amerindian community, most of the leaders were PPP supporters, and they wanted to come to meet with us, and they were prevented. They were prevented from meeting with the leader of the opposition and meeting with the People's Progressive Party leadership for 5 consecutive years while we were in the opposition. Today, we don't, and the AFC, APNU planned the agenda. I remember one of the Tushaus, who was then the chairman of the National Tushau Council, disclosed that when they submitted the program to the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, the program was torn up and one was prepared and handed to them, and that's the program that they had to follow for that event. So that is not happening now. There is free discussion. There is open interaction between the government, the various ministers, the various ministries, the various technical officers within the central government structure, meeting with the Amerindians and meeting with the leadership of the Amerindian community to discuss matters of importance. Some very important decisions are going to be taken before the end of the conference, which includes the election of a new Tushau Council, as well as discussions such as the reformation of the Amerindian Act. We promised in our manifesto that we will review the Amerindian Act. It's now nearly 30 years old. It was passed in 1996, and the Amerindian community has voiced the view that the Act needs to be reviewed, and that is on our agenda. The Legal Affairs Ministry will partner with the Amerindian Affairs Ministry in that exercise. Of course, it's going to be a consultative one, and it will be driven by those consultative processes. There is not going to be an imposition on the Amerindian community, but the Amerindian community will be engaged, and the Act will be reviewed based upon the interactions and consultations held with the Amerindian community. Important issues that have loomed large in the Amerindian Act will have to be addressed. That is, the issues with the miners. We have to frontally address that so that we don't have the Chinese landing type fiasco ever erupting again. The reason why there have been situations of conflict between the mining community and the Amerindian community is because there are certain provisions of the Act that require clarity, and hopefully during this reform process, those issues will be clarified and there will be clear line of authority and functional responsibility demarcated, separating Amerindian interests from those of mining interests, because we have to find a manner of peaceful coexistence. It's common ground that the natural resources of the state remains the resources of the state, and it will not go, the state will not relinquish those resources. So we have to have a modus vivendi between the Amerindians and those who are conferred with authority to mine. our natural resources. So those are the issues that will have to be addressed in the reformation of the Amerindian Act, and no doubt it will be done in a consultative way. The Constitutional Reform Commission will soon be appointed during the month of September. It would be recalled that a Constitutional Reform Act was passed by our Parliament, and that act provides for a Constitutional Reform Commission to be appointed by His Excellency the President, comprising of 20 members and a chairperson. The 20 members are to be drawn, 10 from the political parties in the National Assembly and 10 from organizations representing our major religions, the private sector, the legal profession, our farmers, and the labor movement. So it's not going to be a politically dominated commission. It's going to be half politician and half civil society. And the work of the commission will be driven by public consultation. So once that commission is appointed, of course, a process has to be undergone, and that process will require the various sectors to submit applications, well, not applications, to submit their respective nominees for appointment. So that process will have to begin, and once those nominations are received, then the President shall appoint, and the President has indicated, as has already been published in the press, that those appointments will be made before the end of September. So constitutional reform, that important national exercise, will soon commence. Monday coming, the 4th of September, the Financial Action Task Force, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force assessment team will be in Guyana to commence their AML-CFT mutual assessment of Guyana. It is going to be an on-site examination, and a number of important agencies in our financial and fiscal structure will be engaged, will be interviewed, and will be examined by these assessors. These assessors are drawn from several territories in the Caribbean, and they are acting under the umbrella of the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. The agencies that would be under examination in Guyana will include the Guyana Police Force, the Special Organized Crime Unit, the Guyana Revenue Authority, the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit, the banking sector, beginning with the Central Bank of Guyana, the Geology and Mines Commission, the Gold Board, the Gaming Authority, the National Securities Council, and many other important organizations within the state structure, as well as in the private sector in the financial sphere. A lot of preparatory work has been done to prepare Guyana for this exercise, and it's expected that we ought to do well. The preparation is still ongoing, but the assessment will begin on September the 4th, and it will continue until on or about the 15th of September. So it's going to be a 2-week almost exercise in which all these sectors will be part of the examination process. Ministers also will be engaged. Yours truly will head the government's delegation in my capacity as the subject minister for AML-CFT, as well as the chairman of the National Task Force on AML-CFT. The Honorable Dr. Ashley Singh, our Minister of Finance, the Honorable Vikram Bharat, Minister of Natural Resources, the Honorable Gail Teixeira, Minister of Governance and Parliamentary Affairs, and the Honorable Robeson Ben, Minister of Home Affairs, will all be ministers who will be participating in this exercise. You will hear more of that over the next few days. But that's a very important national exercise that Guyana will be undergoing from the 4th of September until sometime on or about the 15th or 16th of September. So, the leader of the opposition, Mr. Aubrey Norton, sometime last week, promised that he will file legal proceedings challenging the extension by the President of the acting tenure of Mr. Clifton Hicken in the office of Commissioner of Police. Well, on Monday yesterday, the Attorney General Chambers was served with copies of those proceedings. They have been filed by Carol Joseph, and the Attorney General is sued. The main contention is that the extension of Mr. Hicken is unlawful, that the law only permits the extension of tenure of a police commissioner and not someone acting in that office. As a result, Carol Joseph is asking the court to declare the President's decision to extend Mr. Hicken's acting tenure as unlawful and unconstitutional. Though I dealt with the matter already, I want to quickly go through the relevant sections of the Constitution because I believe that everyone should understand these legal issues. They are matters of national importance. So I'll read the relevant provisions of the Constitution and the Constitution Prescribed Matters Act, because those are the two pieces of law that are relevant. So Article 211 reads as follows, and I'll read it very slowly. The Commissioner of Police and every Deputy Commissioner of Police shall be appointed by the President, acting after meaningful consultation with the Leader of the Opposition and the Chairperson of the Police Service Commission, after the Chairperson has consulted with other members of the Commission. So that's how the Commissioner of Police is appointed. Article 211(2). If the office of the Commissioner of Police is vacant, as it is now, or if the holder thereof is for any reason unable to perform the functions of his or her office, a person may be appointed to act in that office. Mr. Hicken has been appointed to act in that office, and the provisions of the preceding paragraph, that is the paragraph dealing with the appointment, shall apply to such an appointment as they apply to the appointment of a person to hold that office. So, Mr. Hicken appointment has already been declared, his acting appointment, has already been declared lawful by a previous decision of the Chief Justice. So that's not under question anymore. So, the office is vacant and Mr. Hicken has been appointed to act. And that appointment has already been declared by the court to be a valid acting appointment. So let's continue. And any person appointed to act in the office of the Commissioner of Police shall, subject to the provisions of paragraphs 3 and 4, forget that for the time being, shall continue to act until a person has been appointed to that office and has assumed the functions thereof. So a person who has been appointed to act shall continue to act until a person has been appointed substantively. No person has been appointed substantively, so Mr. Hicken shall continue to act until someone has been appointed. To me, that puts the matter to rest. And if Mr. Hicken's time for retirement has come to an end, or has come, if his time for retirement has come, right here, he shall continue to act. Notwithstanding, the time for retirement has come. I didn't write this is the Constitution. I'm reading the literal language of the Constitution. An acting appointment continues until a substantive appointment is made. But it continues. Let's go to paragraph 3. Subject to the provisions of the next following paragraph, the Commissioner of Police shall vacate his or her office when he or she attains such age as may be prescribed by Parliament. So here, they're saying that the Commissioner of Police shall vacate office if he or she attains such age as may be prescribed by Parliament. So that speaks to the Commissioner of Police. Parliament has so prescribed in the Constitution Prescribed Matters Act, Chapter 27:12. And that act says that the President, I'm going to read it, the President acting on the recommendation of the Police Service Commission may permit a Commissioner of Police who has attained the age of 55 years to continue in office until he has attained such later age not exceeding 65 years. So this speaks to a Commissioner of Police. They are saying that this thing only applies to a Commissioner of Police. But if that is so, then I don't even have to get to here, because the Constitution says that the acting appointment shall continue until a substantive one comes. So, assuming that they use the literal interpretation, the Constitution is very clear. If they use the purposive interpretation to interpret the Constitution, then the word Commissioner of Police will have to be interpreted broadly and must include a person who is acting as Commissioner of Police. That is the most rudimentary, elementary principle and canon of interpretation. The Commissioner of Police must include a person who is performing the functions of the Commissioner of Police or acting in that office. I don't think you need to go to law school to understand that. You can't write everything in the Constitution, so you read the Constitution as lawyers are trained to read it. And literally, when the literal language does not make sense or sounds odd, for want of a better word, then you go to what the framers of the Constitution intended. The framers of the Constitution, once they provided for a person to act in the office, must mean must have intended that if that person is acting, then he shall perform all the functions that the substantive holder could have performed, and would enjoy all the facilities that the substantive holder of that office would have enjoyed. Isn't that common sense? Isn't that common sense? If you are acting in a position, if you are performing the functions of the office, any office, are you not going to enjoy all the powers that that office has? And if that office holder is liable to an extension, on what basis it will not apply to you, the actor in that office or the performer of the functions? I may be wrong, but to me this is elementary law. This is as elementary and as simple as you can get. But that's the court action that they have filed. So we have to deal with that. But I want to pause here to ask you to reflect upon what role this opposition is really playing. And when I accuse them of being obstructionist, people are critical of me. But why? How does this benefit anyone? This action that they are filing, how does that benefit any APNU AFC supporter? First of all, it's wrong. In my view, the action is completely without merit. It's frivolous, vexatious, specious, and wholly without merit. But what do you intend to achieve other than to waste taxpayers' money by utilizing the court process in a litigation of this type? What benefit does these proceedings bring to any of your supporters? Any one of them. And then when the court awards costs against them, they don't want to pay. But let me tell you what they did when they left office after the March 2nd elections. And I hope that the press would write a story on this. President Dr. Muhammad Irfan Ali was declared the president and sworn in on the 2nd of August 2020. Listen to me carefully. President Dr. Ali was sworn in on the 2nd of August 2020. Prime Minister was sworn in shortly after that. The Vice President was sworn in shortly after that. I was sworn in shortly after that, and then the Honorable Gail Teixeira was sworn in shortly after that. When we got into office, we discovered that Mr. Nigel Hoppy, who was never acting in the office of police commissioner, but he attended the swearing-in ceremony as police commissioner. When we examined the record on the 31st of July 2020, there was a letter dated 31st of July 2020 signed by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs appointing Nigel Hoppy to act as commissioner. You listen to me carefully? Do you understand the level of the lawlessness I'm speaking about? I just read Article 211 that says very clearly that the Commissioner of Police, the Deputy Commissioner of Police, or anyone acting in that office shall be appointed by the President after meaningful consultation with the leader of the opposition and the Police Service Commission. So the president has to appoint. He must do so after meaningful consultation with the leader of the opposition, and he must consult also the Police Service Commission chairman, who must consult with the other members of the commission. So the president must do two sets of consultation, and the president must do it. Here you had Nigel Hoppy being appointed by the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs to act in the office of commissioner on the 31st of July, 2 days before our government is being sworn in. So we were presented with a fait accompli of a commissioner of police, wrongly appointed. And these people have the audacity, and they are so shameless and so blackguarded that they're going to challenge Mr. Hicken extension. Mr. Nigel Hoppy was completely wrongfully appointed. Completely wrongfully appointed. And they did that 2 days before they demitted government after squatting in government for 6 months. And they have the audacity to challenge the president's extension of Mr. Hicken. The president complied with the act. He consulted with the Police Service Commission chairman, and he made the extension, as he is empowered to do. Here you had a permanent secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs making the appointment of a person to act as Commissioner of Police in the office of Commissioner of Police. The Home Affairs Minister can't even do that, but his permanent secretary does it. And Ramjatan is a lawyer, and whole day he arguing in Guyana Forum. And he would never explain these lawlessness which they did. And today they are championing constitutionality and challenging our government when we comply with the letter and spirit of both the Constitution and the law. And that is the difference between the two governments. You have one who's shameless, absolutely have no shame. They don't care, they have no dignity, they have no pride. If I would ever have done a thing like that, I would hope that it wish away. I would not want to challenge anything concerning a commissioner of police, because that would allow for my dirty linen to be washed in the public. But these guys have no shame. They have absolutely no shame. None at all. And that is why up to now, with such straight face, they would tell you that they won the elections. They're telling you that they won the 2020 elections, although the whole world saw them trying to thief the election results through Mingo and Lowenfield. They lost big time the local government elections. Just now, just concluded. And they're driving around the country holding victory motorcades. I have never seen a grouping of people so estranged from reality as this bunch. Completely weird set of people. So, let me see what was going on there. I'm trying to read from what you're writing so that I can engage you in discussion. But there's some debate going on about culture and so on there. So the sugar workers in Berbice have been protesting over the past week or so. As I understand it, these are workers who were not dismissed, but who were working at other estates, being transferred from Rose Hall. They were transferred to Blairmont and transferred to Albion. But they continue to work, and I am told that they are protesting for severance. And I am told also that Ramjatan, Kamraj Ramjatan, as usual, has found himself among the protesters, and he's now purporting to give them leadership. So let me backpedal a little. From the moment the APNU AFC got a one-seat majority in the National Assembly after the 2011 elections, they started to attack the sugar workers. And in fact, it is the sugar workers, I believe, that allow them to get the one-seat majority. It is the sugar workers that allow them to get that one-seat majority. Moses Nagamotu and Kamraj Ramjatan went into the sugar belt. They went into the order lines, and they used to speak to the workers and promise them make all sorts of promises to them. And the workers believed them and gave them their votes. They got a one-seat majority. And one of the first things that they began to do when they got that one-seat majority was to cut all subsidies to sugar. We were a minority government, so everything had to get support in the National Assembly. They controlled the National Assembly with a one-seat majority. Every time we attempted to put money into the sugar industry, they chop it. Every one of our budgets, they chopped. For about 3 years, they chopped 3 sets of budgetary allocations, including those to the sugar industry. The sugar workers did not learn. The sugar workers did not learn. They went and voted for them again in 2015. Because in 2015, they again went into the sugar belt and they told the workers that sugar is too big to fail. They told the workers that they will never close the industry. Many of you will recall Ramjatan speaking at WIM rally, saying that they will never close the sugar industry. And as soon as they got into government, within the first year, they closed Wales. They appointed a commission headed by Clive Thomas to do an examination of the industry. Clive Thomas made some recommendations, prepared a report, and made some recommendations. He did not recommend closure of the estates. He did not recommend closure of the estates. They took that report and they tossed it aside. Their own report. The APNU coalition government commissioned that report. The report said they mustn't close any factory. They tossed the report aside. And one day we are sitting in the parliament and they announced that Wales will be closed. And then is when we heard that 2,100 sugar workers are going to be dismissed. One time. Mr. Komal Chan, president of GAU, was in the parliament and he disclosed that GAU was not even consulted. The workers' union were not even consulted. Then they went and they closed Enmore. And they closed Rose Hall. And they closed Skeldon, putting a total of over 7,000 workers on the breadline. And again, you would remember Ramjatan in the parliament saying that we want his government to pump money into the sugar belt because the sugar workers are our supporters. But they will not pump money anymore. They are not going to pump money anymore. You remember that speech? That is the Ramjatan that they're still going to talk to in Berbice. The same sugar workers that he kicked when he had government, they are running to him now and they are complaining to him. When they knocked them off, when they terminated all of them, 7,000 of them, they promised them severance, which they never paid. Gaisuku never paid. The government said it doesn't have money to pay the severance. Myself and Ashton Chase, who died recently, took Gaisuku to court. There were too many people, too many workers. We filed separate actions, class actions, on behalf of the workers for the severance. Gau did not come to court and consent to judgment. The coalition government of which Ramjatan was part didn't come and tell the court that we owe the severance. They defended the case, causing the matter to delay more. And the judges had to rule, and ruled against them. So even when we took the matter to court for the severance, they didn't consent to judgment. They didn't pay. We had to go to arguments. And then the judges ruled in our favor. And when we got the judgment, still they did not pay. They waited another 8 to 9 months before they paid. By that time, interest had accumulated because the court awarded interest. They refused to pay the interest. We had to go back to court again. We went back to the court for the interest now because they refused to pay the interest. Ramjatan was part of that. Kemraj Ramjatan was very much part of all of this, what I'm saying here. And that is how the people got their severance. Those who were severed, they got their severance through court orders. The sugar workers some of them were committing suicide. They couldn't put food on the table for their children. They couldn't send their children to school. Ramjatan was never seen in Berbice to help the sugar workers there. It was the business community, the PPP, and Guyanese in the diaspora who came together and prepared hampers and meals for the workers' children. Ramjatan was enjoying government. He was never there. Today, they are running to him. And he's the one who put them into that position in the first place. But let's get back to what they are fighting for. They want severance. When we were in the opposition, I traveled several times to Berbice to meet with the sugar workers. I met with them at Kanji, and I met with them at 19 Village on several occasions. Those very workers who are protesting now. GAU representatives were present, and many other people were present. And we held discussions. Some of them agreed that they will continue to work, and they will even work at Blairmont. And some of them will work at Albion. They agreed to go to Blairmont and work, although it was some distance away, and work at Albion. It was understood that once they continue to work, they will be paid. So the question of them getting severance does not arise. You can't get severance if you have not been severed. They were working. In opposition, the People's Progressive Party made a decision that if we got into government, we will pay the severed sugar workers a $250,000 grant. These are workers who were dismissed since 2017. They didn't work from 2017. Those who were protesting never got dismissed. And those people who got dismissed in 2017 were paid the $250,000. Now, because we are hiring back those dismissed workers, we already hired 1,500 from 2020 to 2022, and now we are hiring 1,100 more for Rose Hall Estate, because we are hiring those people. This set who was working all the time now want compensation. They want severance. The amount of money that they got as a result of continuous employment is far more than these people got with their $250 that the government gave them as a grant and their severance pay. Far more. But it is just envy, because these people got severance and then they got the $250 grant. These others who are never dismissed, they don't want these people to get back jobs. It's because these people are getting back jobs. They now want severance. They were not severed. How will they get severance? And that is what the protest is about. And that is what Ramjatan is rushing down there like a sympathizing Judas to do. That's all that they can do. When they see an opportunity, they see carcass. What does the hawk do? That's what is happening there. And that is what the protest is about, as far as I am aware. And I have some knowledge of it, because I've been in it from the beginning. So somebody asked me to explain what the protest is about. That is what it is about. And Ramjatan will stand with them only because it suits him politically. You think Ramjatan cares about them? If Ramjatan had cared about them, he would have pastured them in the first place and knocked them off. All of you who are listening to me would have heard the way that Ramjatan spoke of sugar workers in the parliament when we were advocating for the welfare and interest of sugar workers. All of you heard. He was saying that we want them to pump money and pump money. No, they're not going to pump money. Remember that famous speech? That is the contempt and hate that he has for sugar workers. And then he rushes down there now to show them sympathy. And you know what is hurtful? Is that The people are so gullible. They are so gullible that they are embracing him as though he will ever do anything for them. The first opportunity he gets to kick them, he will do that. The first opportunity he gets, he's going to ill-treat them. And they will still have to come back to the People's Progressive Party. So that is my take on the sugar workers. Road accidents. 8 persons died over the last weekend. All of them were below 21 years old. 8 young people below the age of 21 died senselessly on our roadways. This is a national tragedy that we are being confronted with. This is an extraordinary problem, and we have to take extraordinary measures. A national public awareness campaign will have to be launched. We cannot continue with this type of carnage, with this type of senseless killings of our young people in particular. And that is why we are passing these road traffic laws. And you know what? A large percentage of these accidents are connected to drunken driving. And we are going to move very, very, very harshly on the bar owners. We have already put the law in place. You cannot sell alcohol to people who are driving. You cannot sell alcohol to people who are drunk. You cannot sell alcohol to minors. We have put it in the law. And persons who are found guilty of drunken driving, the penalties are very, very harsh. And we will invite the courts to impose the harshest of penalties, because this is a matter of national proportion, where we are losing our young people in this manner. We have a small population. We can't afford this kind of hemorrhage of our most important asset, our young people. And that's what's happening here. And in my view, all of these accidents can be avoided. I don't believe in untimely death. These are avoidable, horrific accidents. Avoidable, horrific accidents. 8 persons, 21 and below. People who have not lived their life, they have not contributed to national life as yet. The country loses. And I want to take this opportunity to extend my deepest condolences to their grieving relatives, their families. But this is also a national loss that we simply cannot afford to continue to endure. We will speak more about this on the next program. I want to thank you very much for spending the past hour with me. I think we have discussed some very important issues. I am happy that I got an opportunity to speak a little on that sugar workers protest. I believe a lot of people do not understand the facts of that matter and are jumping to conclusions. I hope that I've been able to bring some clarity and give you the historical background leading to the protest, because I believe that the protest action is unwarranted, it's uncalled for, and in my view, it has no basis. It has no basis. There's no good cause behind it. It's something that should be called off. Once again, please enjoy the rest of this evening and stay safe until we meet again next week, Tuesday, to continue this important discourse. Once again, thank you and good evening.